This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so welcome to week 3 of effective copywriting. This week we're going to talk about developing taglines for your nonprofit organization. We're going to talk about some graduate level research that we're going to be doing for the paper that's due in week 4. And we're also going to go over how to approach the changes to your testimonial ads that I graded and got back to you today. So let's talk first about taglines, because that's the first assignment you have coming up with the initial post due on Friday. So according to George Felton, a tagline or a slogan, that's another word for it, a slug line is what they call it in England, but a tagline is basically the essence of the campaign or the essence of a brand or a company. So when you hear a tagline, you connect it to the brand, and it's just an easy way of remembering things. So here's some examples of taglines that have shown their strength over the years. So "Don't leave home without it" is a tagline that was used by American Express for a very long time. "The happiest place on earth" is Disneyland or Disney World, depending on where you live. "Time to make the donuts" was a big, huge campaign that Dunkin' Donuts did when they only made donuts. Now there's so much more, so they don't use that tagline anymore. But Lucky Charms still uses "magically delicious." I got so excited. I saw Lucky Charms commercial the other day, and they actually ended with "magically delicious." Must See TV was a campaign for NBC's Thursday night lineup, and it became all their shows that were on at that time became water cooler shows the next day. So they created this tagline that it became Must See TV on Thursday nights. And it's not just a job, it's an adventure, is what brings people to the armed forces. So they've used that tagline for quite a while. So you can think about taglines as these little chunks of language or these portable pieces of persuasion, if you like alliteration with all those P's. So these portable pieces of persuasion are just kind of stuck in your head, like "magically delicious." If I say Lucky Charms, you might automatically think "magically delicious." Or if I say Nike, you might hear "just do it" in your head. So what you're going to be doing this week is coming up with taglines for your nonprofit organization. So how do you come up with taglines? Well, you want to think about who your nonprofit organization is. The key to what that nonprofit organization is, the key to their identity, is found in their mission statement. That's usually on their about page. That mission statement is the heart and soul of what your nonprofit organization stands for and what they do and why they do it. So you can think about elevating your nonprofit organization by looking at the benefits that your nonprofit organization offers. It's not the features. Features, everything's got features. Products have features, organizations have features, companies have features. It's the benefits that separate them from the pack. So you can think about choosing the best benefit that your nonprofit organization offers and be that benefit's biggest cheerleader and build your tagline around it. You think about differentiation or your unique selling proposition. What differentiates your animal charity from all the other animal charities out there? What differentiates your children's charity from all the other children's charities out there? A friend of mine runs a nonprofit organization called Shane's Inspiration, and they build all-inclusive playgrounds for children so that handicapped kids can have an equal chance at playing outside on the playground like kids that don't have any handicaps. So that's what differentiates them from other children's charities out there. So think about what differentiates your nonprofit, and you can build a tagline around that. You can lean it up against the, oh, you're not seeing my screen. Here we go again. I'm sorry. How's that? Can you see the screen now? Oh, somehow that got clicked off. Now you can see it.
There
Okay,
we
good.
go. We
All
can
right,
see it
great.
now.
Okay, thanks. I was so busy talking, I didn't even realize the screen wasn't showing. I'll put a PDF of these slides up in the community discussion board, or I'll just email them to everybody. PDF. Good. I gotta write that down. Okay, sorry about that. So leaning up your tagline against something else is an interesting way to go. So back in, I think it was the early 90s, Oprah made a big deal on her talk show about beef being unhealthy, and she was never going to eat beef again, and she was only going to eat chicken and fish. So pork jumped on the opportunity to brand itself as the other white meat, kind of leaning it up against the benefits of chicken to sell their pork products, because they were basically saying, hey, we're not beef, so why don't you eat us instead? So that's leaning it up against something. Some creative writing techniques that you can use to create taglines are things like parallelism. This is where your sentence structure is identical in terms of thought and grammatical form. So the tagline for Survivor is the best example of this, because their tagline is outwit, outlast, outplay. So the parallelism there is shown through the alliteration with all the words beginning with O, and the syllabic form of each word being 2 syllables. So it's got a little rhythm to it: outwit, outlast, and outplay. It's also got that thought about the Trinity. You know, human beings love things in threes. It's like we go, you know, I just drew a blank. But anyway, threes are really important because people tend to remember things in terms of three. So Survivor played right into that. Opposition is sometimes when you look at a benefit and you play it up by using the complete opposite. So back before the old Frank Perdue ran the chicken farm, his son's doing it now, all the commercials, but the old Frank Perdue Sr. was this little scrawny guy, and he would always say at the end of his commercials, it takes a tough guy to make a tender chicken. And it was just kind of weird, because he wasn't a tough guy, he was a little scrawny guy, but that was using opposition. So he took a benefit that they have tender chickens, and he played it up by saying the complete opposite. Another creative writing technique, metaphor or simile. You can talk about one thing in terms of another. So Chevy trucks always said they were like a rock. So that's a simile where they're comparing their trucks are so tough, they're like rocks. So some tips for writing taglines. They should be no longer than 7 words. The shorter, the better. They're more memorable. So think about that. If you're starting to write a tagline and it sounds like it's too wordy and you count the words and it's more than 7, look for ways that you can cut back on the words. Think about the unnecessary words that might be in your tagline. You want them to be memorable, because once they're memorable, you're using it consistently on everything, and then it resonates with your consumers, and they'll remember it, and they'll, always put together the tagline with your business. So you want to make sure it's unique to your business. And something to consider, if the name of your organization doesn't say what they do, then the tagline should. Another children's charity out there is a perfect example of this. There's a kids charity out there called Kaboom. And if you just saw their logo, Kaboom, and you didn't understand that they were a children's play charity, you wouldn't know what they were. So sometimes you use the tagline to identify what your company is and what they do. You want to avoid cliches. I'm going to talk about a big one in a minute when it comes to nonprofits, but things like new and improved, friendly, your best bet, things like that just sound corny and old. And it should be true. Remember, the tagline is the essence of your brand, so it's the soul of your company, so you want to think about how it's true. And this is my pet peeve when it comes to nonprofits. I've worked in nonprofits since 1993, so I've heard "make a difference" so many times, used so many different products, services, nonprofit organizations, that it no longer means anything. We get it. You're a nonprofit organization. You want to make a difference. My challenge to you is to never use "make a difference," but find a new way of saying it. Think about what those 3 words mean, and demonstrate how your nonprofit organization makes a difference without saying the 3 words "make a difference." Okay? So some really good resources that you have at your fingertips is taglineguru.com. That's a really fun website. You can visit old tried and true taglines. He's got resources for you to create taglines. Your advertising concept and copybook is also a great source for learning about taglines, and go back to your swipe file. Remember all the ads you collected in week 1? Go back and see how they're using taglines. Usually the tagline is right there under the logo. It kind of reinforces that brand, okay? So we want to think about it that way. So let's talk about the discussion board. You have nothing due till Friday, so we want to talk about getting your 10 taglines written by Friday and up in the discussion board, because you're going to workshop each other's taglines. Now, all this text up here, I actually abstracted the book Carmine Gallo's The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs was brilliant at coming up with headlines and taglines. I mean, when he reinvented when he invented the iPod, and he said 1,000 songs in your pocket. That's all he had to say, and the iPod went crazy. So this is just an abstract of that book. So if you need some other inspiration to help you write taglines, read that. Then I give you a ton of research that you can read. So there's just some short articles, the types of taglines at taglineguru.com, which I just talked about. But then there's 3 PDFs here that you want to read, because these are the things you should be using in your rationales that you're going to write about your taglines. So let's talk about what you're actually doing. So you're going to be writing 10 taglines for your nonprofit organization. You're going to number them 1 through 10. Under each tagline, you're going to write a rationale in defense of each tagline. You want to use the research that I provided for you to support the claims that you are making about the taglines and why they work. It's really important. I say this every week, that I want to see you using the research to support your claims. That's what graduate school is. It's all about research and, kind of contributing to the discourse, as us English majors like to say. So use the supplied resources to help you construct the taglines, and then to write the rationales for your 10 taglines. So put them in the discussion board, number them 1 through 10. Under each one should be a rationale as to why that tagline works. How did it come about? Discuss how you created that tagline. Then by Sunday, step 3 is you're going to workshop 3 of your classmates' taglines. You're going to go in and read their taglines and choose 3 taglines that you think work and explain why. Again, use the research to back up your claims. And choose 3 that are not their strongest and explain why they don't work, and maybe give them a suggestion as to how they can make it better. Okay, so Friday, your 10 taglines and 10 rationales are due. And then on Sunday, your reply posts are done, where you're workshopping 3 of your classmates' taglines. All the instructions are laid out right here in the platform. Okay, so that's the first thing we've got going on. The second thing we've got going on, I'm going to talk about the research paper. I know, I get it. Everybody hates writing research papers. But again, that's part of graduate school. And this exercise, it's not due till Sunday of week 4, but I highly suggest that when you get through your work, and you get your taglines posted, that you start doing the research for your research paper. The research paper that's due in week 4 is a simple 7 to 10 page research paper about your campaign that you're creating for your nonprofit organization. So a lot of what you need to write about is already done. So I'll kind of go through this. So you want to think about the research paper as how you would prepare to pitch to a client. You want to be the smartest person in the room when you're making that pitch to your client. So doing this research paper exercise will show you exactly how you can do that. So in the assignment, you'll see it laid out like this. Let me go find it first on the platform. Week 3. Okay, so it's the 4.3.2 project. So everything is right here. Again, it's not due till Sunday, March 31st. But like I say, get started on it now by doing your research. So let's go back to what I was talking about. So the introduction. You're going to talk about what your nonprofit organization is. Who is it? Give us an introduction into the paper. Discuss your problem statement. What is the problem you want to solve? Well, for nonprofit organizations, mostly they want to raise money so that they can keep doing the work that they're doing. So raising money or raising awareness is usually part of the problem statement. Then you want to state your thesis. Remember, your thesis statement is that backbone of the paper. It's that premise that you're putting forth that you are proving throughout the paper. If you struggle with writing a thesis statement, All of this that I'm doing on the slides is right here in the platform. You can use this sample thesis statement right here and just rewrite it to fit your paper. So this will give you a good example of a thesis paper. Okay, so the next part of the paper that you're going to work on after you write your thesis statement, don't start your introduction with your thesis statement. Practice it, put it at the end of your introduction, because that's going to lead you into the body of the paper. Remember, this is an APA style paper, so use the template. I'll show you where that is in a minute. So you want to give specific details on the company. What's their history? Who started it? Why did it start? Then talk about what differentiates your nonprofit organization from the competition. Remember, you looked at the competition in week 1 when you did the Settle and Alric 15 catalog of needs. Then you want to specify the target audience. That is the exact work that you did in week 2 with your personas project, the target audience profiles, which I will grade and get back to you later this week. But that research is already done. So use that in the body of the paper as you talk about your target audience. Then you want to describe the voice and tone of the campaign that you are producing. Remember, think about this paper as getting you prepared to do a client pitch. So what is it about your voice and tone of this campaign that's going to hook the target audience to get them to support your organization? Remember, in week 1, you did a research paper on voice and tone. So the research is there. Go use that research. Also, when I sent back that week 1 paper, I put a lot of hints in the paper that I sent back to you. It had a lot of indications of what you need to work on, like maybe you didn't cover enough about this topic, maybe you wrote in first person, maybe your in-text citations were a little wonky. So I gave you hints onto what to fix for this paper for week 4. Okay, so the next part of the body of the paper is the money part. This is where you're pitching to the client your ideas about what you want to do for the campaign that's going to help them raise money and raise awareness. So the first thing you're going to discuss is the media plan. Well, the first part of your media plan is already done because you've created 3 magazine print ads that were created for the nonprofit organization. So talk about those. But then, since you have their undivided attention, pitch some other ideas for their media plan. Maybe you can suggest a public service announcement that they could run on TV. Maybe you have a billboard campaign that you could create. So expand the media plan beyond the 3 magazine ads that you have laid out for them already. Be specific and refer to the research about the target audience. Remember, 30-year-olds and under are going to ingest media very differently than 55 plus people. So think about who your target audience is and how they get their media. Are they only looking on YouTube? Are they always on their phone? Are they, have magazine subscriptions? Think about your target audience. Then you want to use this opportunity to back up why you're doing this campaign by explaining the color schemes, the typography choices, the image choices that you made. How are these design considerations going to help them solve their problem of raising money or raising awareness, okay? So it's really important that you cover all of these bullet points when you start working on your paper. They're all right here in the platform. What I always suggest is that you copy out these bullet points and put them in a Microsoft Word document, and as you start to do research or gather your sources, you have all these bullet points right in front of you so you know what you're looking for, okay? So in the About section of FSO, let me go there. About. There are a bunch of downloads here. There's writing tips and essay structure, frequently used action verbs, an additional effective copywriting reading list. There's a bunch of copywriting books in Safari Books online that are right at your fingertips. And this one here is called Resources for Your Research Paper. So start with that one and go look at colormatters.com and some of the suggestions I have here. But what you're also going to have to do is go to the library and find some resources. So let's go do that. Okay, so we're going to go to Connect. Of course, this Full Sail 1 is now live, so eventually Connect is going to morph into 1. So let's just talk about the library for now and not 1. So go to your library link and log in. Get to the library homepage. Scroll down here to Research Databases. And I always like Academic Search Premier, which is part of EBSCOhost. But as you can see, there are plenty of other sources here, like Business Source Complete. You can find SWOT analysis on businesses there. Let's see, what else is here? What's LexisNexis called now? I don't even know if we have that anymore. Oh, Nexus Music Library. Oh, Nexus Uni is what used to be called LexisNexis. This is a really good interface that you can use to find some sources on business and legal sources. But I want you to stick with just EBSCOhost for now because you don't have to do that deep of research. So let's go into EBSCOhost. Oh, let me log in. It's probably not going to take my login. Hold on a second. Boom, boom. All right. So when you get into EBSCOhost or Academic Search Premier, this window is going to come up. So you want to do a search about your topic. You can start by doing your organization's name. Maybe there's research in the library on your specific organization. But let's just search animal nonprofit organization, something big. I got 41 results. That's a lot. So what you want to do is you want to think about how you can use this research to prove your thesis statement, that problem statement that you made. So you want to make sure that you have access to all of the resource. So you want to come over here on the left-hand side under Refine Results and click Full Text. That's going to make sure that everything that's there is going to be the full article. So you can see it took it down to 23. Then what you want to do is always check off scholarly peer-reviewed journals because that is the type of research that has been reviewed by the peers and it's really accurate research. So that took it down to 8. So you can see right here, we've already gone from 43 down to 8. So that's a good way to refine your results. So say you're reading through these and you decide that Food Animal AGM was a really good article and you need the citation for it. I'm going to show you a quick way to get the citation. You're going to click on this. And then on the right-hand side of the page, you're going to click the Cite button. Boom. And that's going to give you a whole list of citation formats. So come down to APA and just copy and paste this into a Word document. Now here's what I do, and I've written hundreds of research papers. When I do my research, as I'm going through the articles, if I find a really good quote that just resonates with me that I know is going to prove my thesis statement, I copy and paste it right then and there. I take this reference, I put it in a Microsoft Word document at the top. I either type or copy and paste in that direct quote, and I have a running page of direct quotes with the citation already there. So that's how I work. I try to make notations as I'm working so that I can get more done quicker. So that's just how I work. But that's what you want to do when you go in the library. If you can't find your organization, you want to think about going bigger. So if you do animal nonprofits or just maybe you can just search things like fundraising. A bunch of stuff will come up, I hope. Boom, there's 1,500 articles just on fundraising. And if that's what you're doing, if that's what you're pitching as part of your campaign to the client, using this research to back up your claims makes you that smartest person in the room. So, and it's part of graduate school, and we want you to do library research. So that's how the library works, just so you know about that. Let me go back to the class. And week 3, and the project. Okay, so like I said, this is not due until week 4, but you should get started on it now. Let's talk about APA. Some of you did not use APA, and I was kind of stunned in week 1 because you've had it in since month 1. Everything we do in Full Sail is in APA format. It's what Full Sail does. That's the requirement, APA format. I went through school, all I did was MLA. I now know I'm an expert in APA, so you need to figure out where your APA falls. If you're struggling with creating your own Word document, go into Microsoft Word. Let me launch that and show you how to do this. Boy, my Microsoft Word is really slow. And if you come, just cancel that. Come under New from Template. When that opens up, you'll see a bunch of templates come up. Well, this one is APA style paper. So double click it. And when it opens up, everything is here. So all you have to do is go up into the running head and put the title of your paper there. Put your title here, your name and Full Sail University. That's all that should be on the title page. Running head with the title of your paper up to 50 characters. If your title is long, it needs to be shorter in the running head. You don't need an author's note, so you can just delete that. You don't need the table of contents, so you can just come in here and just delete that. The abstract you are going to need, so your abstract is going to be 250 words and should go here. So it's not 150. I want a 250 word abstract. It's the last thing you write because it's a summary of the entire paper. Then your paper is going to start right here on page 3. The first thing you're going to put is the title right here, centered, and then go into your paper. Your references are going to be the last page of the paper. So here it's actually showing you how they should look. And remember, you went into the library and you used that citation trick I showed you. So your references should be, correct. Last name, first name, article title, journal title, book title, and the pages and the year. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is this template comes with a bunch of extra stuff. So I want you to go in from footnotes all the way to the end and just delete it. So the last page will be references. Now you have an APA template that's ready for you to use for every paper you're going to write from now through month 12, because you're going to be writing these APA papers in every month. So I just showed you how to use the template. So do that. And if you struggle with using APA, contact the Full Sail Writing Center. They have a lot of great information on that. Okay, so when you're gathering your sources for your research paper, you want to make sure that you're getting the right sources. So you want to evaluate your sources from the scholarly databases. Again, if you check off that peer-reviewed scholarly journal, then every piece of research you're going to get is going to fall under this academic type of graduate level research. So what you want to think about as you're looking for your secondary sources, because this is a 7 to 10 page paper. How many pages is this paper? I'm teaching too many classes now. 5 to 7 secondary sources. So this is a 5 to 7 page paper. So you want to make sure you have 5 to 7 secondary sources. And as you're reviewing your sources, make sure you answer this question. How will this research help answer my research question? Your research question is the problem statement and the thesis statement that you make. So will this resource help me prove my argument that I'm creating in the thesis? If you answer yes, then you want to look a little further and double check that the source is authoritative, that the source is current, that the source itself supports its own information and it's not just pulling quotes out of thin air, and that the author's tone is balanced and it's not like an opinion piece. You want to avoid questionable websites. These are usually your .coms that are trying to sell you something. Now, you can use the organization's website because the About section in their history is going to be right there. So that's one of your sources. You want to think about the resources that you use for your week 1 research paper on voice and tone. You have research that you did on the target audience, so that's all done. You're going to pull at least one resource from the library, so that's already done. You did some work on the competition using Settle and Alric from the Felton textbook. The Felton textbook is a great resource for the paper. And the other thing you want to think about using is the target audience profiles. There's your target audience already laid out. So talk about how you develop those target audience profiles. Remember, APA is in third person. There's no pronouns. So if you start a sentence, I decided the target audience is adults 18 to 49, just lop off the I think and just say the target audience is made up of adults 18 to 49. That's how easy it is. So your reference list, if you use the template, is telling you how to do it, but you have to list your sources in alphabetical order. And remember, an in-text citation in the paper is supposed to lead your reader to the reference page. So the in-text citation should be the author's last name or the title of the web page, and that should correspond correctly to the reference page. That's why you do reference pages and in-text citations. Something you may have read in the papers that I sent back to you when you opened up the Word document that I sent back is how to properly use research. You just don't want to plop in a quote just because you have a quote. There's a right way of doing it. You want to introduce the quote using an action verb. Remember, in the About section, there's a PDF that's filled with action verbs. So you want to introduce the quote by saying something like, in the article, 10 Ways to Save Puppies, comma, author John Smith states is the action verb, concurs is an action verb, argues is an action verb, the following, boom, and then you put the direct quote in. So you introduce the quote, you give me the quote, and then the next sentence that comes out of the quote should be an explanation in your own words on how that quote supports your argument. You can't just put in a quote and just leave it there. You have to explain how that quote supports your argument. So if you think about it, with 5 secondary sources and you're using 3 sentences for each one, there's 15 sentences of your paper already done. Here's your list of action verbs. That's a PDF in the About section of FSO. I'm going to stress this really hard that the paper isn't due till a week from Sunday, but you need to get started on it now. You can't write it the weekend that it's due. It's just, there's too much to it. Okay, but this week we're going to talk about the testimonial ad revisions. Everybody who got their ads in on time with their 6 sketches, their 6 rationales, their 3 comps got feedback today, because I want you to have the full week to work on these revisions. So we're going to talk about what the revisions mean. I sent back some comments about the first part of the assignment, which was to come up with the 6 concepts based on the 9 different types of testimonials. So you have to make sure that they're testimonial ads and that you're using 6 different types of testimonial ads. So out of the 9, you're choosing 6. And you've created these concepts and you wrote your rationale as to why you're using that type of testimonial for your nonprofit. Now you did the comps. You chose 3 of those concepts that you thought were the strongest, that were going to really help the organization raise money, raise awareness, come to an event, whatever it was your concept was about. But there were some issues with the ads. So I might have done, I'll show you some examples of how ads transform from week 2 to week 3. Excuse me. This was an ad for the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence that a student did a couple of years ago. And sometimes I like to play the crazy client in the room because I have a lot of experience dealing with crazy clients. And they're going to say something like, whoa, I don't understand the point of this ad. Why is that woman who's wearing a really ugly hat standing on the playground with an automatic weapon? I don't understand this. What I'm trying to tell you, says the client, I want my playgrounds to be safe, but I don't want a woman in a bad hat representing my organization with a rifle. So when the student and I talked about it, he was like, oh yeah, I see what you mean. That's probably not a good way to represent the organization. And it's not a really good message for the ad. The tone is all wrong because you have a woman, forget the bad hat, but she's standing there with an automatic weapon. So he took this ad and the idea of the safe neighborhood playground and turned it into this ad. I love this ad. So now here's a mom sitting on her steps smiling, and she's saying that she can smile again because now she can send her kids out and play in the neighborhood playground and knowing they're going to be safe because the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence helped their communities become stronger, and now they can imagine a future from gun violence. So the ugly hat lady got revised into this really emotionally strong ad that makes you want to sit up and take notice. A second ad, the student did was this one with the two guns. And no, I cannot tell who has a mental illness because one gun's big, one gun's small. They're pointed kind of at each other, but the first gun's going to miss. I don't know. How do I know if a gun has a mental illness? So I said, I think what you're trying to do here is use personification. So personification gives inanimate objects like a gun human qualities, which means in the form of a testimonial that the gun can actually speak. So when we talk through this ad, he turned this into this ad. Now you can hear the remorse in the actual voice of the gun as part of the testimonial. What have I done? I'm the manifestation of the Second Amendment. I should be controlled, all this stuff. When will they learn? So taking something that doesn't work and transforming it into strong messaging that has the voice and tone that resonates with the nonprofit organization and the target audience is what these revisions are all about. Never once do any of us knock it out of the park on the first try. I once had a project where I had to create a new logo for a television station, and 75 comps later, I still couldn't get him to make up his mind. He finally made up his mind what he wanted. We start doing all the branding. We have the sign made for the lobby. He comes in, looks at it, he goes, I don't like it. Let's start over. So rarely do you come up with a concept and do an ad and then boom, it's done. It's never done. Trust me. So get used to your work being critiqued. Get used to your work being thrown in the garbage. A lot of my work ended up in the garbage. Okay. The other thing I told you in the revisions is that you have to create a cohesively branded campaign. This is an example of a cohesively branded campaign. The Pasadena Humane Society and SPCA has this great campaign. It's the color of their brand, so they resonate with the whole brand identity throughout their ad campaign, and they use different puppies and kittens. But the message is always the same, that your best friend is waiting for you, adopt the newest addition to your family, and here's how you do it. Go to the Pasadena Humane Society. This is a cohesive ad campaign for the Sweet Potato organization, and they use the power of orange, since sweet potatoes are orange, and did this campaign. You can see all the ads look the same, but the message is different, yet the message resonates with the brand and sells the sweet potato. This was a campaign done by a student for City Harvest Food Bank. The City Harvest, what they do is they gather up unused food items from restaurants and give them to people who need food. So this campaign was based on the imperfect piece of produce. So you have an imperfect orange. It doesn't look great, but it's perfectly nutritious. So is the tomato, so is the lime, so is the cucumber. So she did this whole campaign around the imperfect piece of produce and created a cohesively branded look for City Harvest. This one is for Seven Sun, which is a clothing company, and it has the same look, even though the concept is about throwback fashion. So they did 60s, 70s, and 80s, but the ads have a cohesive look to them, so you know what company they're from. So that's what you're working on this week, is you're looking on how you can create a cohesively branded campaign for your nonprofit organization by doing the revisions based on the feedback that I gave you in your feedback for the week 2 assignment. Okay, so let's go over due dates. The Mastery Learning Project, those 3 revised comps are due back on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. The campaign research paper is not due till Sunday of week 4, but please get started on it now. The first thing that is due are your 10 taglines with your 10 rationales in the discussion board by Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, and then followed by your response post to 3 classmates discussing their 3 good taglines and their 3 not so good taglines, all by Sunday. So like I said, this is a busy week. So work on your taglines, work on your revisions, and get started on the research for your research paper. As you start to work on these assignments, if you get stuck or struggle, give me a call, shoot me a message through the platform. I'm here to help, so please don't hesitate to ask for my help. Especially if you're struggling for research, I'm a researcher. I can find anything, usually anywhere. So I love doing doing research, so let me know if you need any help with research. Okay, any questions? That was a lot. I covered a lot in this session today. Yes, you have to do double spacing with the paper. I think the template actually shows that. Yeah, see this? This is double spaced. The abstract is double spaced, and then the body of the paper is double spaced. And also note that when you start the body of the paper, your paragraphs are indented, and there's no extra space between your paragraphs. So you don't have to use headings. They're just here in case you do want to use headings, and it tells you exactly how to do the headings. But that's like too much for this paper, so skip the headings. But you just want to write in concise language that clearly communicates the ideas behind the campaign so that you are prepared to go in and pitch your ideas to a client if that ever happens. Okay? Any other questions? That was a good one. And I'm sorry about the beginning where I forgot to turn on the screen sharing, so I will send out the PDF of all the slides right after I sign off from this session. I will also have the archive turned around tonight, so if you have any questions about anything you view on the archive, please reach out to me. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to turn off the recording now.